Life is precious. But for some, life can't continue without the generosity of others.
Hello. Without the blood and blood products, I wouldn't be alive.
It takes hope,
We just broke down into tears. We didn't really want to let each other go.
courage,
Oh my God, this is really happening for him. So you get really scared because, you know, they might not survive.
and the whole community.
They tell me I have saved the lives of 2.4 million babies.
People that donate blood, they're superheroes.
Feels good doing it, really.
I survived.
I can breathe.
It makes our job so rewarding that you can see what the blood and the blood products can do for someone.
I'm so grateful to be healthy that I squish as much as I can into every day.
We go behind the scenes with Australian Red Cross Lifeblood to share the heartwarming stories of giving life. And now, on Giving Life. A young mum gets a life-saving transfusion.
Without blood donors, I would not be here.
A retiree receives the ultimate gift.
The very best birthday present I think I've ever had is a new lung.
Come on.
And a special group of survivors giving back.
The first rule of Bike Club is you talk about Bike Club.
Ash Quinn and her partner Sam were over the moon when they found out they were expecting their first child.
We'd actually just lost a baby a few months before, so I was a little bit nervous, but I was really determined that I was going to not worry too much and enjoy the pregnancy and, yeah, just be really happy.
When Ash had her 19-week scan, she received some disturbing news.
The doctor said, look, we found a problem with the baby's heart. It's to do with his major arteries. They should cross over, but they run parallel. They just said, look, I want to send you for a scan at RPA this afternoon. A fetal cardiologist explained that our baby would be born with a condition called transposition of the great arteries and a ventricular septal defect.
The main problem with transposition of the great arteries is that the two outflow vessels that take the blood from the right and left ventricles to the lungs and the body, they're in the wrong position. So the blood that's going to the lungs just comes back to the lungs. And the blood going to the body does the same thing to and from the body with no mixing between.
So at birth, we knew he would have to have probably 2 surgeries. So the first one would be to create a hole so that he could get mixing of the blood. And then the second one would be the big open heart surgery. Obviously, with all the risks involved, there was a chance he wouldn't make it.
Eight years ago, Dave Pearson had a life-threatening experience in the waters off Crowdy Head in New South Wales.
23rd of March 2011, grabbed my surfboard and headed out for a paddle to try and get a few waves to wash away the week. I was in the water probably 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I got attacked by a shark. I looked down at my arm because the water was going red around me, and it was because the veins were just squirting blood out everywhere. They believe I lost 40% of my blood in the attempt to try and get out of the ocean.
After his attack, Dave felt the need to connect with other survivors who would also be interested in donating blood.
I'd actually asked a few high-profile shark attack survivors in Australia if there was any group and if they were interested in starting a support group. In 2012, we kicked off Bike Club with 7 original members, and now in 2019, we're up to 300 members. The Bike Club was a funny name to come up with. I'd recently watched the movie Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. In Bike Club, the first rule of Bike Club is you talk about Bike Club. You talk about your experiences, you talk about your feelings, and you talk about what you're going through. We are primarily a shark attack supporters group, and as our shirts say, we're shark attack survivors. But a shark attack survivor doesn't have to be just the person bitten. The family members of someone taken is also a survivor of their shark attack.
18-year-old Zach Young from Port Macquarie was with his friends when the shark attacked.
The teenager was brought up onto the beach by his surfing mates, where paramedics desperately treated him, trying to stop the bleeding and resuscitate him. But it was too late. He was pronounced dead at the beach.
This is the first time I've come here to donate blood, but I've done this because my son, back in 2013, his life was taken because of a lack of blood. Blood is actually life. It would have saved my son's life, and it's saving so many people's lives today.
So today we have a small gathering at Port Macquarie. We are all going to donate blood in honour of Zach today and in honour of what Bike Club does. First time donor,
Yeah,
Kevin.
I'm excited.
First time donor, Dale.
As a first-time donor, Kevin answers questions about his medical history and has a haemoglobin test. This process takes 14 minutes before he donates.
To be here today to give blood, somehow just takes you back. And I think if we could have got blood to Zach, he'd be alive here today, there's no doubt in my mind.
Just relax this arm now, no squeezing for a moment.
The biggest fatality rate in our group are all related to blood loss. People get attacked, such as myself. I lost 40% of my blood.
It's the one ingredient that saves life is blood. So when you give blood, you're actually giving life to someone. You're saving someone's life.
Ash and Sam are about to become parents for the first time. But at 19 weeks gestation, the baby is diagnosed with TGA, a condition requiring open-heart surgery at birth.
The baby had to be born at Westmead because he needed access to the heart centre.
Then, at 33 weeks gestation, Ash is admitted for an induced birth.
So when I got to the hospital, they broke my waters and started the Syntocin drip just to get the labour going. Once I actually started pushing, Harry's heart rate was dropping quite a lot every time I would push. So Dr. Jenkins made the decision to give me an episiotomy and do a forceps delivery just to get him out. I was lucky though, they did give him to me for 10, 20 seconds. I don't know, it was a very quick amount of time, which I wasn't expecting because I had been told that I wouldn't really get to hold him at all. And then he went off to the corner of the room where they had a big machine set up and they just started working on him in the room immediately. Sam was over with him, but I was trying to see what was kind of happening in the corner of the room. Yeah, there was a lot happening.
While Harry is raced over to the Children's Hospital at Westmead to be stabilised and prepared for surgery, Ash's condition takes an unexpected turn.
The midwife said to me, oh, look, let's get you up, let's get you in the shower, do all that kind of thing. And when I stood up, there was a lot of blood. And I got in the shower and my sister was with me. But I just remember starting to like shake. And then once I got back into bed after the shower, I was just starting to get into an extreme amount of pain.
Overnight, despite being given pain relief, Ash is still in agony.
The pain was excruciating. Parts of my body were going numb from the pain. Yeah, it was just something I can barely even describe.
We made a decision to take her to operating theatre so we could have a really good look at what was going on and make sure that we got this situation under control. And we arranged to cross-match some blood because it was evident at this time she was going to need a blood transfusion.
It was literally like something out of a movie. They were running my bed down a hall. It was just like lights just like going past. And I was in a theatre and out.
"71-year-old retired lawyer Wall is from Canberra. While his wife Penny, 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren keep him active, he also loves to play the mandolin. In 2016, Wal began to develop some worrying symptoms.
We were at our daughter's wedding up in Byron Bay, and one day my fingers just all swelled up to like thick sausages.
So we thought that was odd. So that prompted him to go to see his doctor when he got back from the coast.
He sent me for an MRI, which identified some elements of rheumatoid arthritis. After a couple of months, she said to me that it's quite common where a person has rheumatoid arthritis for there to be an associated lung condition. So she referred me to a respiratory physician. And they identified that I had a lung disease. They called it non-specific interstitial pneumonitis, which, as you can imagine, was a total mystery to me.
What that means is that you have an autoimmune disorder, a systemic process where the body's immune system is attacking different parts of the body. And in Wal's case, it was attacking the lungs. So these are diseases that cause progressively worse scarring of the lungs. Progressive breathlessness, progressive cough, fatigue, impaired quality of life as that occurs. In Wal's case, we do not have an evidence-based proven therapy to halt the progression. And so therefore, Wal's condition was largely untreatable.
Wal's future is looking bleak. By the end of 2016, his lungs have deteriorated even further.
And it got to a really bad point. He couldn't talk for more than 3 or 4 words without coughing 7 and 8 times in between.
What's really interesting is that breathing is one of those activities that you never think about. When you can't do it, you realise just how debilitating it is.
30-year-old Signa Baidoon suffers from sickle cell anemia, a disease that can be treated but not cured. She relies on regular blood transfusions to stay healthy and to manage her painful symptoms. Today, she's having a treatment through an apheresis machine.
Signa comes in every 6 weeks for a red blood cell exchange. So essentially her red cells are sickle-shaped, whereas our normal ones are round. So we do the exchange every 6 weeks so that we can get rid of those sickle cells and we replace with donor blood cells so she doesn't come in crisis.
Having regular red blood cell exchanges is one way that we can keep her well, because one of the risks that they can have if they have sickle cell disease, it can get caught in their brain and they can have a stroke. So it's kind of preventative.
Doing this procedure, we connect her up using her fistula here, and then it essentially takes her blood out, gets spun in a centrifuge inside the machine. We take off her sickle cell blood cells, which are in the collect bag at the back, and we replace with donor blood that doesn't have the sickle cell.
If I don't take blood, I get tired. And if I don't take blood, I come in hospital with leg and back pain.
So with Signa, we're replacing nearly 2 litres of her blood today, and that's normally about the same each time for her.
Well, I think it's very important for people to keep donating blood. Well, I think I'll be in hospital every day without having blood.
For someone like Signa, we're giving her a normal life. She's able to go to work. So it's really important that we're able to do this procedure for her. And for people to donate blood, it's an amazing thing and it's worthwhile. And if you could see these people, Signa, living a normal life, then it's all worth it.
Ash Quinn has been rushed into surgery after giving birth. Husband Sam is at the Children's Hospital at Westmead, where baby Harry is being prepped for open heart surgery.
So when I found out that Ash was going to have surgery, it was a bit of a shock. We knew Harry was going to have surgery, so it was both of them having surgery within a 24-hour period. I signed the documents for Harry on the Tuesday morning. It was a document where I'd been told the chances of stroke, there's a risk of brain damage, and there's obviously a risk of death with this surgery as well. What probably is going to be the biggest moment of my life, signing that document. At the same time, I was actually more worried about Ash.
Ash had been given Syntocin to bring on Harry's birth and ensure a safe delivery, but it's now causing problems. She's continuing to have postpartum contractions, which is causing massive hemorrhaging.
So Ash had a primary postpartum hemorrhage and lost about 2 litres of blood during the birth and in the 12 hours or so afterwards, and she received 3 units of blood transfusion.
Wednesday was Harry's surgery. There was a moment of, I could lose my whole family at any time during this 24 hours. Told it was probably going to be six hours of surgery. I was by her bed waiting for Harry's surgery to finish.
Wal has been diagnosed with a lung disease for which there is no treatment.
Without some radical change in his lung disease pathway, he didn't have long to live.
When the doctor told Wal that he had 12 months and at the very outside 2 years to go without a transplant, it was pretty awful to hear that.
Well, there were a number of things that went through my mind. I've been married to Penny now for over 40 years. We've been together 45 years. And, the thought of that sort of ending was pretty scary and horrifying, actually, because we've still got so many plans of things we wanted to do.
The lung disease continued to progress. Our hand was forced and we really needed to think about lung transplantation.
So I came down to the Alfred in March and spent 4 days in hospital being tested for absolutely everything. As a result of that, I was then put onto the waiting list.
Wal's blood samples are sent Australia-wide to the lifeblood processing centres. Lifeblood and Donate Life work together to find an organ match. The process is complex and has many variables.
Their blood group might actually be different to the donor's blood group, so therefore they're not suitable to transplant. There are other factors such as size of a donor. For example, if there's a donor who's 100 kilos, their lungs would quite simply just be too big to fit into someone who's only 40 kilos.
The hospital suggested I should move to Melbourne. They said if an opportunity comes up, you really want to be there. You want to be available because it can happen very, very quickly. And then we just had to wait.
And I think that's probably been the hardest, the waiting and watching him go downhill so rapidly. He got to a point where he could get up here, go to the kitchen and do something, and then he'd have to go and lie down and rest.
The longer you wait, the worse the lungs get. And I would have been at a point where 24 hours a day have to be on oxygen just to be able to stay alive. Penny had to go back to Canberra every now and then, Penny, my wife. On the 6th, I rang her up and said, look, I'm starting to feel fairly despondent. We've been here almost 2 months. Nothing seems to be happening. And Penny said to me, it's going to happen this month. I can feel it. I just know it's going to happen this month. And I said, and it was my birthday on the 10th. And I said to Penny, wouldn't it be lovely if I got some new lungs as a birthday present?
And an hour later, he rang me up. And I said to him, what have you forgotten? And he just stood there in front of the camera and said, I've just had the call. I've just had the call. I have to be in hospital at 6:30 a.m. And I said, tell me everything they said, every word.
Wal's age could have worked against him. A few years ago, he wouldn't have been considered for a transplant.
As we've got more experience, we've had more donors, we've extended the donor age to 75.
So I went in on the 7th. I had my lung transplant done later that afternoon. I came out of my induced sleep on Monday.
So it was just lovely seeing him there. No ventilator, nothing. He looked almost normal except for all the stuff hanging out of his neck.
I was discharged after 12 days, which I thought was pretty remarkable.
He's actually back to the old Wal. He goes to the gym 3 times a week at the hospital. We walk everywhere as much as we can. We try and get our 10,000 steps a day up.
It was a second chance at life, and the thought of having another chance, where I can spend more time with my kids, my grandkids, it's an exciting prospect.
At Westmead Hospital, Ash and Sam are waiting to hear news of baby Harry's open heart surgery.
It was such a relief. The operation was an absolute success.
In the post-operative period, he just sailed through. He came off the ventilator quite quickly and got to work on all the difficult things like establishing feeding.
So we managed to get out 1 week after his surgery, which is just amazing. I think even the doctors were amazed at how quickly he'd recovered. So we managed to get him in the car seat, and suddenly, I think it was for the first time, we went, oh, we have a baby.
I sat in the back of the car with Harry and I just basically cried all the way home.
Can you think?
Without blood donors, I would not be here. Harry would not have a mother, and that is just so petrifying. To think that something as simple as giving blood can literally save people's lives, I mean, it's just amazing. You know, there are just no words to say how thankful we are.
See?
Next time on Giving Life, plasma donations help a young woman beat the odds.
In terms of what could have happened and what did happen, I still count myself as immeasurably lucky.
A road trip ends in life-saving transfusions.
The accident has definitely changed my perspective of blood. You don't know you need it until you need it.
And a small town sets a big target to save lives.
I'm hoping we will achieve 1,000 lives today.